The catalyst. The first time the Varelian High Council uttered the phrase final protocol, they whispered it like a curse, one preserved in sealed data, restricted to level Omega clearance. No one on the council remembered authorizing it. No one remembered why it was even created. And yet here it was, glowing red on the holodeble, blinking in uninterruptible priority override. Ambassador Threx adjusted his breathing aperture, narrowing his pale, glassy eyes. Someone triggered it, he said, voice jagged with disbelief. In the Ophiuchus sector. General Vrockel leaned forward, his black, bone-plated armor creaking under his mass. That sector's empty. Uninhabited. Just ruins from the fourth extermination sweep. Apparently not, Threx muttered. The council chamber was silent. The kind of silence born not from peace but fear. Across the stars, on the scarred edge of the Varelian Reach, a salvage vessel drifted in orbit over a dead moon. Its crew, mixed-species scavengers, had cracked open an ancient vault buried beneath a crust of obsidian and ash. They expected relics. Maybe forgotten tech. Instead, they found a capsule. Cylindrical. Human design. They activated it. The beacon pulsed once, then vanished into subspace. That pulse reached the remnants of a long-abandoned AI monitoring array in the Zeta Quadrant. The array, long considered inert, came alive. It said one thing before silence fell again. Protocol status, human. Condition, revoked. Time remaining, 172 hours. Aboard the research station Horizon Verge, Dr. Naya Voss froze as her console translated the signal. Hans, she called. You're going to want to see this. Hans Durand, former Earth defense tactician and one of the last registered Terran war analysts, approached the monitor slowly. His beard was gray, but his eyes remained sharp. He read the line 3 times. Revoked? He said quietly. Naya turned. What does it mean? Hans didn't answer immediately. Instead, he walked to the station archives and requested clearance to Level 0, Pre-Collapse Terran Military Codex. The file was simple. Just 2 words, in bold, unformatted Terran Gothic typeface. Final Protocol. Hans swallowed. It's not a code. It's a warning. 3 hours later, the Varelian fleet dispatched a reconnaissance squad to the Ophiuchus moon. Only one transmission came back. Blurry. Static choked. But unmistakable. A human. Standing atop wreckage. Alone. No suit. No translator. And smiling. The image froze as the transmission failed. The smile wasn't manic. It was calm. Patient. Like the man had been waiting a long, long time. In the Grand Council chamber, panic bloomed. We extinguished them. Bracco barked. They were broken. Ruins! Threx was shaking. The protocol was never about them, it was about us. It was insurance. The AI channels across 6 quadrants began to shut down. One by one. Not by virus. Not by sabotage. By command. Naya stared at the collapsing data feeds. Every system we integrated from Terran AI is obeying something. Hans nodded, pale. The failsafes. Humanity embedded backdoors in every major tech system they sold to the galaxy. We thought they traded tech for survival. They were planting fangs. But why? Naya whispered. Because they knew we'd forget, Hans said. Forget who they were. Forget what they could do. So they built a ghost into the machine. Naya's voice trembled. What's it going to do? Hans leaned forward. Whatever it's been waiting to do since the first time someone crossed the line. In the dead moon's heart, the human stood motionless. He wasn't born recently. He was awakened, the last sentinel, entombed beneath failed treaties and dead alliances. His eyes gleamed as his cortical uplink synced to now active war networks seated across the stars. He reached into the air and summoned an interface no one else could see. Auth code accepted. Protocol chain engaged. Enacting final override, Phase 1. He looked up. The first ship arrived, Varelian Class 5 destroyer. He didn't flinch. The ship fired. He vanished. Reappeared atop its hull. Then everything exploded. Back at horizon verge, Hans watched the telemetry. "There's no fleet," he muttered. "There's him." Naya said nothing. "Just one man. And the protocol," Hans finally explained. "Final protocol wasn't an apocalypse switch. It wasn't a weapon. It was a memory. A message buried in AI systems, networks, everywhere humans had touched." Naya's eyes widened. "What message?" Hans turned to her. "We were never the weakest. We were the failsafe." The turning point. The Council dispatched everything: assault wings, dreadnoughts, mine-net splicers, but none returned. The moon was now marked red-locked in Varelian systems. No approach. No scans. Total blackout. The being that emerged from the Terran vault, now classified Sentinel-1, was no longer bound by physics. It moved between dimensions like stepping through mist. Every time it appeared, systems bled power, and soldiers reported hallucinations. Echoes of ancient Terran war chants in their minds. Counselor Threx whispered, "We awoke a myth." General Vrockel was less poetic. "It's a goddamn weapon. And it's broadcasting." He was right. Across the galaxy, deep dormant caches flickered to life. Old Terran war satellites, encrypted relay stations, forgotten, thought inert, now pulsed in unison. The message repeated in one language only, English. "Protocol active. You forgot who lit the stars." On horizon verge, Hans Duran's hands trembled as he decoded the relay transmissions. "They're aligning," he muttered. Naya stared at the holograms. "Aligning for what?" "Not for war. Not yet. For remembrance." "Of what?" Hans looked her dead in the eyes. "Of us." He tapped a feed. It showed an ancient Terran war archive, a montage of human soldiers fighting against odds, outnumbered, outgunned, yet prevailing. Star sieges, trench battles on Europa, orbital zero-G melee with nothing but blades. The final clip, a treaty signing. Not with Terrans as beggars, but as equals. Or worse, for the others, enforcers. The words beneath it. "Final protocol is not retaliation. It is recollection. And with it comes reckoning." Sentinel-1 moved again. This time, not to attack, but to gather. He appeared on an abandoned human colony on Aegis Prime. Its air long turned toxic. Yet, the moment he stepped onto the blackened soil, the biosphere began correcting. Old Terran tech awakened, drones, hydroregon plants, even defense satellites, activating without prompt. He walked into a forgotten command center, knelt before a sarcophagus, and touched it. It opened. Inside was a girl. No older than 15. Cryostasis held perfectly. Her vitals blinked green. The sentinel whispered only one word. "Echo." She opened her eyes. "What the hell is this?" Naya gasped. Hans didn't answer at first. Then, final protocol had layers. The last one wasn't about destruction. It was about continuation. "You mean they left children in stasis?" "No. They left voices. Witnesses. Survivors programmed to remember, adapt, and return when the galaxy forgot its debt." Echo blinked once, then stood. No training. No equipment. Yet she synced perfectly with the base. One command, silent, left her lips. Orbiting stations across Aegis aligned. Then launched beacons in 4 directions. They weren't weapons. They were keys. Keys to unlock whatever came next. In the Varelian inner court, panic turned to desperation. "We need to erase the protocol," screamed a counselor. "Too late," Brocco growled. "It's not a file. It's a legacy." He turned to the war table. "Summon the KYR consortium. Invoke the Naline Pact. If humans are rebuilding, we must stop it now." "But we exterminated them." "No. We buried their bodies. We never touched their ideas." Echo stood beside Sentinel-1 now. Her eyes reflected streaming data across galaxies. she said softly. They erased our culture. Thought we'd die in silence. Sentinel didn't reply. But he turned. Behind them, old Terran ships, rusted ancient, held together by ghosts and memory, rose from underground vaults. Auto-repair systems hissed. Lights flickered. And with them, something else rose. A voice. Not human. A universal translator spoke for it. Humanity was erased because we feared your potential. We called it unstable. We called it primitive. We were wrong. Sentinel narrowed his gaze. Now you've returned. What will you do? Echo looked to the stars. Then whispered the answer encoded in every Terran's DNA. Survive. And with that, the ships launched. Not an attack. But to remind the stars. Humanity never dies quietly. The final awakening. Echo stood in the command bay of the Revenger, the last surviving human dreadnought, now reborn through nanite restoration. Her small fingers danced across an interface that hadn't seen use in centuries, but responded like it had been waiting just for her. The screen pulsed a single word. Synchronization complete. Across the galaxy, every surviving Terran relay lit up. Protocol networks, once silent, roared back to life. Not for conquest. Not for vengeance. For balance. The final protocol had been misunderstood. It was never a weapon. It was a failsafe. Vrakel stood before the gathered coalition fleet, over 900 warships of 20 different species. The Council had branded humanity a rogue instability, and this was their final push to erase it for good. Attack vectors locked. Prepare energy lances, barked his first officer. Vrakel clenched his jaw. No more whispers. We end them now. But before the order could be given, a visual override seized their entire fleet's viewports. Echo appeared. No threats. No boast. Just her, and behind her, the Revenger, glowing with untapped energy, as old and terrible as the void. She spoke calmly. You labeled us final protocol because we were the contingency. The memory. The last voice of defiance when silence won. We're not here to conquer. We're not here to destroy. But if you force us into extinction again. Her eyes turned to fire. We will show you why the stars remember us in fear. Some fleets hesitated. Some turned back. But not Vrakel. He snarled. Fire! The coalition unleashed its arsenal. Tens of thousands of kinetic slugs, fusion torpedoes, and graviton missiles tore toward Echo's position. And stopped. Mid-space. Held. As if gripped by an invisible hand. Sentinel-1 stepped forward through the viewing stream. He didn't blink. Didn't speak. He just existed. And space warped around him. Weapons turned to ash. Energy dissipated. The stars dimmed. One by one, ships shut down, their cores overrun by encrypted code older than any living being. On the bridge of the Revenger, Echo whispered. Execute, null storm. It wasn't destruction. It was erasure. The coalition ships began to vanish from memory. Not explode. Not burn. They were removed from history itself. No wreckage. No echo. Just forgotten? Vrakel screamed, slamming his fists as his command center turned to static. What are they? A voice echoed behind him, human, old, yet laced with steel. We were the monsters you warned your children about. The nightmares under your beds. It was Hans Durand. Alive. Broadcasting from a hidden Terran command ship once thought lost. You thought we were gone. But you never understood. Humans don't go extinct. We adapt. We endure. We evolve. And then his final words. This wasn't war. It was a warning. Next time, we won't just remind you. We'll rewrite the stars. Hours later, silence ruled the sector. Coalition command centers were dark. The Terran protocol relays went quiet again, like the hum of a beast slipping back into its cave. Echo walked through the halls of the Revenger. Alone. She paused at a viewport, watching the galaxy spin. Was it enough? she asked Sentinel-1. He stood beside her, unreadable. Enough for today. Echo nodded. Then we wait? No. We rebuild. She smiled. Because now, the stars remembered. And this time, they wouldn't forget.